In this video, we're gonna talk about the importance of sound in film and by using it properly, how it can elevate your film to a higher level. Hey everyone, my name is Dom and this is Filmmaking Simplified, where we talk about everything that belongs to the art of filmmaking. Film is a relatively young form of art compared to literature, painting or sculpting, for example, and film with sound is not even 100 years old. Even though film is supposed to be the art of motion on screen, hence the name motion picture, sound and picture has almost become inseparable. I would say that today what we hear is almost just as important as what we see. I'm saying almost because we're still talking about a film, and in theory even a deaf person should understand what a movie is about, as it's supposed to be mostly told in picture. But that's never really been the case, as even in the age of silent films they use title cards and music to support the story. So long story short, sound is really important and it's something that can even make or break a movie. Now let's take a look at a few aspects of using sound in movies and what you should pay attention to. First and foremost, I will talk about sound quality because it's something that most aspiring filmmakers don't pay enough attention to. When you're planning your movie and trying to get the best camera and lenses to work with, consider sound the same way. It should be on the top of your checklist, not somewhere after catering and transportation. The three main art departments of a film are the camera department, the sound department, and the production design department. These three will define the audiovisual experience of your film. So make sure that the sound of your film is done just as professionally as everything else. Just like making sure that the sound of your film is recorded professionally on set, consider sound after your script is done and you step into the pre-production phase. This will help the sound department to record sound as good as possible. There are various things you have to consider from the perspective of sound before you start production. First of all, give your script to the sound engineer. There might be challenging parts that they will have to specifically prepare for, or they can just suggest ideas for the use of sound that will help the story. Second, the sound department should always consult with the costume department to make sure that the clothes that the actors will be wearing are suitable for audio recording. Certain materials are super loud and make it impossible to record clear dialogues. This one is not the best example, but do you hear? Third, take your sound engineer for location scouting so they could give their own insights and inputs on the locations. It's not possible to record proper sound everywhere. If there is room for compromises, choose a location that is perfect for visuals and so is for audio. One of the first counterpoints from the rest of the crew when it comes to choosing between sound and visuals is always that sound can be also recorded and edited in post-production, so visuals should be a priority. And it's true, and I also personally believe that in a case where there has to be a choice between visuals and sound, I will choose visuals without hesitation. But as long as such a decision doesn't have to be made, visuals and sound should be considered the same way. The thing is that actors will give their best performances on set, and by recording ADRs, you will risk that the scene won't be as good as it would have been if the sound had been recorded properly on set. So if we look at visuals and sound as two layers on top of each other, we can see that they can tell different stories at the same time. This is a huge power in our hands. These two dimensions have to support one another, of course, to achieve the desired effect. Let's look at a few examples. We step into a house where everything is beautiful and tidy. A nice lady welcomes us, but we hear noises of suffering coming from behind a door. We immediately know that there is something awful going on around this lady. Or think of war movies. What's often the first implication of an attack? Those creepy sirens. One last, how do you use sound to help create tension in a room with only one actor? The ticking of a clock? Water dripping from the tap? Wind whistling through the cracks of a window? A dog barking in one of the neighbor's apartments? There are countless ways sound can be used to add extra information to your story or support the scene to become easier to understand. Sound can play a huge part in dramaturgy and is something that you should already consider when writing a script or start working on one that's already written. Sound has the power to give you an idea as to what it is that you hear, and actually being something entirely different when you show it. The world and atmosphere that you create will define the mood of a scene, the location, the age the film is set in, and much more. Information that you would otherwise have to show or actually tell the viewer about. As one of the lasts, let's talk about music. On one hand, music is something that should be in tight symbiosis with everything else, as it's a powerful enough medium on its own to very quickly become the most important part of a film. On the other hand, when it's used properly, it will support the film just enough to take it to the next level. The best score that a movie can ever have if it's composed for the film itself. That way, it can be fine-tuned precisely to moment. If the music begins at a certain sentence or a certain movement, it can have completely different meanings. Music in movies emphasizes emotions, words, and actions. If it's used properly, music should guide you through emotions. And don't get me wrong, the scene on its own should already do the magic. If it's only the music, that's wrong. But if it's supporting the scene, maybe the toughest guy in the room will have a tear or two instead of just being sad and then lying about the movie touching him at all. Music can, however, also define the mood of a scene, regardless of what we see. For example, in this scene of the movie, The Pianist, after soldiers are burning up the houses, the protagonist escapes and runs away in the middle of the street among destroyed buildings. No music, just silence. He's like a rabbit in an empty field, free prey. But if we use an inspiring, elevating music, it will immediately be about saving his life from terror and going forward regardless of hopelessness because he's alive. Remember, everything that you use in your movie has to have a purpose and have to be well thought out. Music especially. Alright, I think that basically says it all, but just to make sure it's clear what I want to say, silence is also a form of sound and it has more power than you could ever imagine. Silence can create tension, build up a joke, emphasize a moment or sentence. It can set the stage for something great and important. Silence makes us pay closer attention to everything else, and it also gives us room for other forms of sounds to be emphasized. For example, this clock behind me that you otherwise wouldn't hear. Silence also gives a break to the viewer to process everything else that they have seen and heard. Silence always says that something important has happened or is going to happen. But it's enough to just look into your own life, for examples. In an argument, what has more power and meaning? When your partner shouts at you or just says nothing after you shouted at them? Or why do you like to escape from a loud city to nature every once in a while? Silence is just as important as sound, and if they're in balance, that's what you call harmony. And with that being said, that was the video for today. I hope you learned something from it, and if you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Both really helps in growing this community. If you have a thought, share it with me in the comment section and let's have a chat. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Ciao.